Welcome to That's What She Said, where we'll spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of That's What She Said on my favorite day of the week, That's What She Said Day. Thank you for tuning in and pouring into yourself all of this tea that we are about to spill on women empowerment. So for all the guys listening out there, if you are tuning in on Facebook Live on Thursdays at 1:30, if you are online on WSGW.com or on the radio, right? On the radio, highly encourage at 100.5 FM and 790 AM. We're airing that on the weekends twice a weekend. That used to be on Sundays at 6 p.m., but we went to catch those early birds on Saturday. Not I. Saturday at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 6 p.m. So I was reflecting since the last episode on how amazing it is that the fact is we'll never run out of women. There will always be another woman who is rising, who is passing along a pearl of advice, who is, excited to empower, who's empowering, who's been empowered by someone. And it led me to, I feel like we're getting in a groove of things, right? We're getting in a groove of things. And when I said that out loud, standing in my kitchen, which I'm sure many of you do, you get that little bit of a jump, a jazz, a step forward, a step back, a slide. And then I thought, you know what? I'm getting in the groove of things, but we've had setbacks and we've had step forwards. And to be honest, that's how you dance. You take a step up, you take a step back, you move around. Moving forward is not always one step in front of the other. We have to adjust. We have to be flexible. When a curveball is coming, we move out of the way, or we do get pushed back and we learn a lesson to move forward. So throughout the rest of your week and in moving forward, remember that those steps back aren't necessarily a step back. You're just getting your groove on. So thank you for tuning in. And we're going to talk about so much today. The tea is going to get hot because I have her presence has power. And that's what it is. When I see her from across the room, she is, there's, I don't know, a fan club. There's always a crowd. There's always just this smile from across the room that has presence. And so there was no thing that that hesitated me. I just went up to her. I was like, you need to come on. That's what she said. And so today we have a woman who has a powerful presence, and I hope that you are inspired and go ahead and share this piece of advice that you'll be learning today from Marlana Lane Cork. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I appreciate you being so welcoming to me. We kind of just originally interacted at a meeting where there was hundreds of people, and like I said, there was just a presence about you where I was like, I need to meet this girl. And so I just walked right up. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to walk right up and introduce yourself. And the amount of welcoming towards me as someone who's that girl, it was exciting to be part of, the initial conversation. But can you share with the community how they may know you?
Well, some may know me, Christiana, from Hey Bay City with Phil Ike. As I say, my partner in crime or my brother from another mother. And when I was over in Bay City and was asked to be the director of workforce development, also included in that was to work on the podcast with Mr. Ike. And he and I launched this podcast to build up a talent attraction program. And that's what Hey Bay City was all about. And he trained me, he schooled me on talking on air. And that's when I really started to dig my heels in the sand as far as getting involved more in my community in the Great Lakes Bay region. So most people may know me from that. And then I just kept moving on from there. I've been in workforce development for several years. So anytime you needed any type of help, people would reach out and say, Marlena, okay, I need some help with my resume, or I need this. And I'm always willing to lend a helping hand. God has blessed me with so many gifts and talents, and it's a sin not to share that. So whenever someone needed some help, I was always there as much as I could be. So that's where it started.
When you say workforce development, can you better define that for our listeners who are just like, they don't see those words collaborating together?
Yes. Well, workforce development can mean so many different things. For some, it may mean, okay, that's HR, or, hey, it's just recruiting. I would help develop individuals, help them find a path that, okay, they may not know where they wanted to go, or they may not know where to go, or how to tap into those resources. So for the majority of my career, that's what I did. I would help students, I would help adults, whether it's going back to school, whether it's trying to figure out what career path you wanted to take. The reason why that attracted me, not only as a career, but that was me. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did not want to go to school. I was not one of those wonderful students in high school where I was on the National Honor Society and involved in all these different things. I just knew, hey, I wanted to move to New York and just have a good time. But how was I going to get there?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing. And that's what led me into those type of roles, ultimately into Bay. Then I moved over into a couple of other roles, which landed me where I am now with Great Lakes Bay Health Centers as the grants and projects manager, doing some more amazing things in the community. So,
okay, so we're going to take it a step back. You said you were the person that needed the help when it came
yes.
to workforce development. You saw yourself in who you assisted through Hey Bay City. Prior to that, what led you, other than wanting to be a New York superstar and just get your party on, what led you to that urge to help others in that capacity?
As a teenager, I struggled in school. So I was always trying to seek help and trying to figure out what resources are there for me, what's out there. And at that time, we're not going to talk about how many years ago, many, many moons ago, but there were resources. But how do you tap into them? How do you find them? Who's the person that you need to go to in order to help get the help that you need? And when I realized, okay, Marlena, you need some help as far as getting through high school, you need some help as far as going to college, if that's what you choose to do. I said, well, who's doing this for other people? Who's really taking the time to say, hey, I'm really digging my heels in the sand to say, I'm going to help other people. So that way it's not hard tapping into those resources.
So when you needed assistance, like you said, getting through high school, which I'm in awe. Like you mean to tell me that you weren't an all A student?
Absolutely not. By no means of the world. As they say, C's get degrees. That's how I got through high school. And I'm not ashamed of it, because most people think in order to be successful or in order to be a pillar in your community, you have to be doing all of these amazing things and you have to have been that person all the time.
Why do you
That's not
think
true.
people think that?
Because sometimes in society, that's how we've shaped it. We have those that really get the clout, I guess, if for a lack of a better way of saying it. It's always the students that are able to, hey, they're balancing grades as well as being an athlete. And we never really celebrate the underdog, the unsung heroes. So where are they? And there's so many amazing people doing so many amazing things that don't necessarily get to share their story because they're not there. And I wanted to be that advocate, I guess, for that underdog, for those unsung heroes, and say, no matter where you started, that doesn't have to be the end. That's not the end.
Ooh, okay. Let's sit in that for a minute. Wherever you started, that doesn't have to be the end.
Yes.
And so you're over here moving through high school and thinking, how do I succeed? Who was someone and how did you find that person that helped you get to out, helped you get out of that hole, helped you move on past this?
I will have to say my parents pushed and pushed and pushed. And I will say this, I come from a single parent household. So my mom worked hard. My dad lived in the Detroit area, but still from a distance. They were always, you got to go to school. You got to do this. You got to do this. Someone can tell you that, but how do you get there? What are the steps that you have to take? And for a long time, it took me a long time to understand, Marlena, this may be the struggle right now, but this is the setup. This is preparing you for what's to come. Anything that is great and wonderful is always going to be some trying times. And that was my trying time. I needed to take some time to, one, understand and focus. I will say there were other mentors, there were supervisors that have poured into me, community members that continue to pour into me. And I can't name them all. I don't want to name one because I don't want to make anyone upset. But I was so grateful for the opportunity for anyone to say, hold on just a minute. You need to take a step back and look at what's going on. What do you want to do? And get some direction.
Did you ever feel pressure?
I did.
You did?
Honestly, yes.
Let's unpack that.
Well, first with your parents, come on, let's talk about that. Parents are always like, hey, you got to do this. You got to do this. And my siblings and I are always like, we don't want to. Anything that they said do, we were trying to do the opposite.
Are you
And
the
that was
oldest or
me.
the youngest?
I'm the oldest.
I knew it. I knew it.
Of
Okay.
course.
All right. Well, hear me there. You're average CB student.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Mom and dad are putting pressure on you, but you're the oldest.
Yes,
That's like triple pressure here.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Tell me more.
It was my internship on being a manager.
Unpaid.
Unpaid. So, when you're looking at, not only are you getting the pressure from your parents, but you want to make them proud. I've seen the struggles that, my parents have gone through. I was born and raised right here in Saginaw. So proud of that. Graduated from Bridgeport High School. And when you're trying to find your way and you're asking questions, it's like, what do you ask? Where do you start? But that pressure from your parents to just, those are your cheerleaders. No matter how upset that they may make you, no matter how hard it may seem, they're on your side. But then you have managers or you have mentors that are pushing you into places that you don't want to be. It is so uncomfortable.
Okay. There's two things you said here. You said you don't know what to ask.
Yes.
Right. So when and a lot of times our guests are saying, I don't know who to ask,
Yep.
or I'm too shy to ask. You're saying, I know who to ask. I'm ready to ask the question, but what do I say?
Yeah.
So to our listeners who are out there who, are maybe there's something in their life that doesn't feel up to par, that they're not meeting like you said, a social standard.
Mhm.
What is something a piece of advice you would give them, knowing that you've gone through this?
First, pull out that big audacious goal. I don't care how crazy it is. What's your goal? What is it that you want to do? And when you have that time to sit and rest and sit on that, no matter how crazy it may seem, because that's how I operated. That's how I moved. I just thought of any and everything that I could that didn't make sense to anybody else. And I did it anyway.
How did that work out?
Some days it worked out really good. And some days it was the pits, to be honest. But it was a lesson that I learned in every situation. But again, I had a goal set. So when you set those goals and you start breaking down, well, what does that look like? Do I need to go back to school? Do I need to get additional certifications or whatever it may be? You have to sit and break that apart. So then you can start figuring out, okay, which way do I want to go? Sometimes you don't have to think of the questions. Someone will help you out, but you have to start somewhere. And that, for me, it took me a long time to just realize, to just sit down, Marlena. It's okay. It doesn't matter if somebody tells you no. What that means to me, no, you can't do it that way. You just need to find a different
Different
way.
way there. So what was that pivot? Because you said it took you a while to figure out I could
Mhm,
do this.
mhm.
What was that pivot that you took that essentially you decided to take, to take your story into your own hands?
It wasn't honestly until my mid-30s where after, of course, a few bumps in the road, after getting married, I started having children and living this blissful life of marriage, like, honestly, very, very happy, but it was hard.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I started really coming into my own in my career and understanding that I'm good at this, like, I can do this, but then you have to make it your own.
You're good at your career.
Yes,
Did that reflect being good at being a mother and a wife?
it did.
How so?
Well, first, let's just be real, Christiana. You need money to take care of your family. You
Yes.
got to make sure if you want to take those trips or what have you. But I'm gonna back up just a little bit. It took a lot of praying. My Lord and Savior helped me through so many situations. And because of the fact I knew what my focus was, yes, I wanted my career to flourish, but I needed my family life to be stable and secure. And I needed my children to feel that way. But I also wanted them to see this is what this is what your mom is doing. And no matter how hard it may seem, no matter what the struggle is and how frustrating it may be, guess what? You can do it too. And my son right now, he's a second year student at Saginaw Valley, didn't have the highest GPA, but he's going to school on a full ride.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
it's your character. No matter what you do and how you move, you need to pay attention to that. If you're trying at least a little bit, just a little bit, you never know how that's going to pay off for you, but you have to stay faithful.
What did your faith journey look like? Was
At
this something that you had your whole life or
Yes.
leaned on stronger later?
Yes. It was, as you know, growing up, going to church every weekend, you're just going to church. You're going through the motions, let's be honest, because you're really not, and for me, you're really not understanding the purpose and understanding the different values that are being taught to you. You just know you're supposed to go to church. This is what you're supposed to do. But then when that faith has it starts to get tested. It's where you really understand. Okay, this is what this is about. This is what praying is about. This is that having a faith as small as a mustard seed to say, hey, you can't see it right now, but you need to hang in there because something big is coming. And with some of the different situations that I've experienced in my career over time, there was job loss, there were struggles on the job, inadequacies because I may not have felt that I had the education at first, but that was honestly my drive at the same time. So my faith just kept me hanging in there. Like, I can do this. And who else is going to tell me different? So,
Was there ever anyone who did tell you different?
oh, yes.
Really?
Plenty of times. Getting turned down for jobs. Like I
Okay.
said, there was job loss.
How do you
Af-
bounce back from that? Is this the mustard seed you're explaining?
Yes, this is that faith and understanding, as I mentioned before, it's that setup. This may be the setback right now, but it's a setup for something greater. So you have to keep that faith to say, okay, it's all right. This is a part of the plan. This is a part of the strategy, the game of life, as they say.
So it's knowing that there's a bigger picture.
Absolutely.
That's what you're telling us.
Yes.
So each of these pieces and parts are puzzle pieces essentially to a much bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What's your bigger picture? What do you want to fill yourself with?
Honestly, again, the love of God, I'm so thankful for that and the grace. Making sure my family is always secure and knowing that we're there, and then serving my community. And I pour myself into my community to the point sometimes I have to learn, okay, Marlana, you need to step back. But that's the most important to me in living up to what I say. Integrity is everything to me. And my grandfather used to tell me, honey, it doesn't matter how pretty you are. It's your word that counts. If no one trusts that,
I feel like there's a little story to that.
just a little bit.
Okay. So your grandfather told you that it's not just the beauty, it has to be the brains.
Yes.
Essentially. Did you absorb that, or were you still trying to get to New York?
Okay. So, yes. No, honestly, early on, it was like, oh my goodness, I can go and do these things and have a good time, but it's not always about a good time. You got to pay the price in order to have that good time. And that's what you learn over time. Like, what are you going to do to get where you want to be? Do you want to have fun? How are you going to do that? What's the plan? Again, it goes back to those plans. If you say you're going to do something, you need to hold true to your word. If you're going to perform a job, you need to hold true to your word. If there's a deadline and you said you're going to meet it, hold true to that. If you're going to go pick up a friend to take them out to dinner, hold true to that. But you need to be honest and upfront about everything.
I feel like what you just said is something that you might have said to one of your children.
Oh, all the time.
I feel like that's been a little, that's an elevator speech at the house.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to take a quick break here, but we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Being accountable for yourself and others. So for those who are tuned in, stay tuned in. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back with Marlana in just a few moments.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
So we're spilling tea here. It's all over. We're excited. We're talking about so many pieces of advice about. We ended the show talking about showing up and being accountable and having accountability for ourselves and others. So for those of you who are just tuning in, thank you. You are listening to That's What She Said with me, Christiana Malacara. But more importantly, my guest here, Marlana Lane Cork. Thank you for coming in and having a conversation. So on these shows, we talk about empowering others and how do we do that? And a lot of times I'm noticing that we need to reflect on how do we empower ourselves? And we always and constantly have that conversation of you can't pour from an empty cup. You always have to energize yourself before you energize anybody else. Plane's going down. Put the mask on you before the other guy, right? So we ended the last episode, like I said, and you had said something that was quite interesting, and you mentioned, and I brought in your children to the perspective here. You have this elevator speech here about how to show up for yourself, how to be accountable, but how to be accountable for other people.
Yes.
What are ways that you can show accountability to yourself?
Well, first and foremost, what I do, and it goes back, I'm always planning. And what does that mean? Marlana, what do you want? How do you want to show up? What does that look like? It's literally conversations. I call them staff meetings in my head.
Everybody come aboard.
Yes, there you go.
Who's on your staff? Who's on your,
yes,
internal staff?
That's where my faith comes in. I always, and my dad will tell you there's been many a late nights. My husband, sometimes the inside of your children, that in itself, what does that look like? What are they saying? How are they viewing you?
So feedback.
Of course. Yes.
How important is that to get feedback, and who do we get that from?
It's important, but Christiana, to me, it's to an extent, because you need to get inside of others so you can see what does that look like, because the perception of others, yes, it matters. But sometimes you take that and you use that as part of the lesson. Not to sit and, oh my goodness, I'm so worried about what other people are going to think and what they're going to say. Because if that's the case, you will cripple yourself and not do. So you have to sit back and take a step back to say, what is it that you're getting feedback about? Sometimes you have to embrace um, that feedback, even if it doesn't sound necessarily as positive as you want it to be. But your real friends and that those real family members will tell you, hey, this hurt, or you may want to think about this, or have you thought about this? Because there may be other perspectives that you just didn't explore.
Have
So,
you done this with friends before and just kind of ask for real-time feedback?
oh yes. Oh yes.
How'd that make you feel?
It was uncomfortable a lot of times, but you have to get used to being uncomfortable. If you don't, how do you grow? You Everyone has their flower that has to be watered. You have to repot that plant from time to time. You have to let those the weeds and all of that. You got to take all of that stuff out. But how do you do that if you don't take the time to just kind of understand what's going on around you and taking in those perspectives? Like I said, I turn to my faith all the time. My parents, again, my husband, of course, and again with my children. But then when you're, of course, being in the workplace, how are you showing up with your coworkers, with your colleagues? What does that look like? Because you just can't walk around and just be offensive and just think that's okay. That's not okay. But you need to understand what's going on. It's like getting the lay of the land and going from there.
So essentially, you're saying it's important to look and learn through other people's lenses on yourself.
Yes.
So what perception you're giving.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you were to ask your children,
Mhm.
what would they say their perception of you is?
Oh, mama is hard on us.
I
Mama
think I would
is hard.
I think I'd have to rebuttal and be like, Mom, I heard you got all C's.
Yeah. But, and what I realized, because my children are direct reflection of me and
I
a lot
bet.
like me. But I have told them it has been hard. It was hard for me in school, and it's okay. It's okay to speak up. Sometimes you get scared to say, oh, I'm not so good at this. That's all right. And so I try to make sure that I give that message to them all the time. They take it. And from time to time, they'll drop me little messages like, thanks, Mom. And when it comes from boys, it's not going to be much of a conversation.
Boys.
Boys.
Okay. All
So,
right.
but
So are you helping them with the planning and the preparation? We're
yes,
talking about our second year college students on a Saginaw Valley here, right?
yes.
I said our because now I'm that proud. I'm just that proud.
That community.
So what did that plan and preparation process look like? Essentially, and we're talking about, starting a ripple effect, right? And some people don't see that
Yeah.
until their ripple has, turned into a wave,
Mhm.
right? And we're here just going through the motions, but you have this beautiful opportunity that you poured into your children. And now here we are. He's starting his own ripple and his own wave here. Did you sit down and prep and plan with him, or was it kind of just, here's my advice, go for it?
I'm going to be honest. I had it all laid out, all the resources.
Oh, Lordy.
Everything.
Right.
Here we go. Like, we're going to sit down and we're going to plan your future. And this is who you can talk to. And my son actually said to me, Mom, I got this. And of course, as a mom, it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, what's going on? Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I've been here. I've done it. Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to sit back and say, you know what? I got to let you learn. I have to let you, hit that wall if need be. And when it's time, you'll come in and you'll talk to me or you'll talk to Dad and you'll say, okay, now I get it, because I can give you all the information all up front. And we piece it, because it's kind of at the right time, at the right moment, that he has to be open to receive it. And that's all of our children.
Was that hard to let go?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Tell me about that. How'd that make you feel?
Okay. So for a couple of nights, I cried, just sobbed.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm like, oh no, they're my kids. He got this. And what we do, one thing as a parent that you learn is that as hard as it is, how are they going to learn? I had to go through my process. So do they. Sometimes I have to step back and say, nope, it's hard for you right now. You'll be okay. And then sometimes it's, what do you need? How do I need to show up for you?
Okay. So, yes, you had the resources to give him. No, he did not accept it. Kindly.
Mhm.
Thanks, Mom, but I got it.
Mm-hmm.
But you still had the resources to give him.
Yep.
How has there been a time where, in this process, right, that he came back and was like, all right, Mom, I don't got it. Did he come back at any?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's where you just have to learn to, okay, when the time comes, they'll come back and they'll talk and they'll ask you what you need. You give a little bit and then you have to know how to back off.
What was your reaction?
Well, first, I'm just jumping up and down inside because I'm like, yes, he's calling us. Because as a parent, it's hard when you don't really know what's going on with your kids because they're, these days they're in their phones and they're talking to everyone else but you. And we're like, we can help you. But with having those resources available and he knows that, it's just reiterating that, we're here. Whatever you need, just let us know. We give you what you can and let us know. And they come back. It may take a little while. It may not be as quick as you may want as a mother or as a parent, but they come back. And that's at that time. That's when we have the opportunity to sit down and have a discussion. But they have to be open to receive that. And as parents, we have to respect that as well.
So receiving information, how do you teach a child, a student, honestly, anyone, a coworker, how to receive information?
Well, it's hard to just say, hey, you need to receive this, or you need to just open your ears and your mind. When they're coming to you, that's kind of the first indication. They want some help or they want a little direction. But then you just have to know when to, okay, hey, I'm here, I'm open, listen to the problem. And I think sometimes as people, not that we're not listening and don't want to help and we're so self-absorbed, but we get so excited that we want to help you. We have all of these things that I could provide you and give you that we forget to just stop for a moment. How do you know how to help when you don't listen to what the actual issue is?
Ooh, active listening. Being a listener. So you're saying, let's be open.
Yes.
Let's be open and ready, open arms when your kid comes back, when whoever it is in your life that you released with information, they're going to come back.
Yes.
Likely. So accept with open arms. But you're saying also on top of that, just listen.
Yes.
Don't even, because there's plenty of us, and I'm guilty of it, where somebody comes back and it's like, I told you, right?
Right.
I told you that was going to happen if you didn't do this, and I win. Obviously, that's the wrong thing to do.
It's situational. And I hate to, I know it sounds like it may be back and forth, but with anything, you got to listen to what's going on. How can you respond to something when you actually don't know what the issue is? So first, get the lay of the land. I'll go back to that. Find out what's happening. If a colleague comes in and say, hey, Marlene, I need your help. Okay, what's going on? Some of the tools they already have, you're just helping them organize those tools and put them together. But when you're sitting back and you're listening to what they need and what's going on, it helps you, one, to prepare yourself for what you're going to actually provide them as far as advice or additional tools. But then at the same time, you actually know how to navigate that a little bit better. And then you're helping them navigate that.
Okay, so now we're tapping into a master class here with Marlena here. As women, what are some, let's just say 3 top tools we should have in our toolbox?
One, you got to have that confidence. Have that confidence in yourself in whatever it is you're trying to do. 2, you need people that are willing to go against the grain with you. It may be 1 or 2 people. You don't need a whole tribe of folks, but you need a couple of people that are willing to to play, like, for lack of a better way, that devil's advocate with you. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And I'm going to say, first and foremost, honestly, you need to stay on your knees. If you're not a person of faith, that's totally fine. But you still need to have some faith of, what can I do? And when you put kind of, that's my formula, but those are some things that you can mix up however you want to say, I need someone to push me. You need someone in your corner that is going to make you uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And have that faith and confidence in yourself that you're going to continue to push forward no matter how hard it gets.
Let's go to your number two tool.
Mhm.
Having some people in your corner, your cheerleaders, your champions, your devil's advocate.
Mhm.
Who's that for you, and how do you find them?
Well, I will say this. I have a little bit more than a couple. Sometimes it's my husband. So it's been a lot of nights where I'm like, I'm not talking to you tonight.
Yes, I'm
Again,
familiar.
my parents, first and foremost. And I do have a couple of very, very close friends that they will check me on a dime. And I appreciate them for it.
Those are the best of friends, honestly.
They are.
We can rag on each other with love.
Yes, with love. And keep on going like nothing else happened. And those have been the staples, I will say, in my life, because of the fact that I know what I'm going to get, whether it's good, whether it's bad, that kind of middle ground point. That's what you need. And I don't necessarily say you find them. Again, where that faith comes in, those people will kind of come your way. You may not recognize it at first, but as you see how people are showing up for you, and you see those people that they're not just calling you to give you the latest tea. They're like, look, we're goal setting today. Like, what are you doing today? They're checking you on a dime. Not always. And it just sounds so bad where it's like, no, I'm just telling you about yourself. No, what are you doing with that? How are you handling your money? You know, are you getting up? You going to work today? Push yourself.
Yeah. I sidebar. I have a question for you, but I have to plug the story in real quick. I started working out, something I haven't done in a few years.
Amazing.
And I have someone who texts me daily. And she must have an alarm that goes off that says text Christiana. And it's, hey, are you making it in today? Are you able to make it in tomorrow?
Yes.
What time are you coming? And that has been, just this nice, loving, gentle push. But I am so glad that I have her nagging me every day to make sure I don't forget my gym bag.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's shift a little bit to confidence. You said that first. And when I saw you from across the room many months, almost a year ago, I was like, she has presence.
Really?
Is that through confidence that it just like, okay, here we go. Here's the question. How does one obtain confidence?
For me, I will say this. It took me a while, again, to understand who I am. If you don't know who you are, you won't know how to exude that. And it's not just, when Marlana puts on her makeup and her earrings for the day, that, she's putting on her coat of confidence. No, you have to have that from within, that fire constantly burning inside of you to say, I can do this no matter what is coming up against me, because you are going to have some challenges. That took me a long time to get there. I felt like the awkward kid in school. I felt like, that awkward young adult. And then I'm just like, no, you got it going on. Like, it's just being your own personal cheerleader. If you don't believe in yourself, well, how do you expect somebody else to believe in you? How do you expect somebody else to understand your potential when you're coming off, so shy, so coy?
Okay.
Like you can't do it.
So we're moving from shy, coy to confident. But is there a line that needs to be drawn when you're going from confidence to egotistic? Like, I'm just full of myself.
Is there?
I don't know. Is there? Is there such as too much confidence?
Who's measuring? By whose bar? Because for me, some people may say, oh, she's stuck up. She just thinks she really got it going on. Guess what I do? Because I know what favor I walk in. I know what I have. And I know what was put in me, was for me, is for me. My path was my path. And you don't know how I got here. Christiana, I don't know how you got where you are. Look at what we're doing right now. But what happened to up to this point for you to get here? So if it exudes to be a little egotistical, excuse me, a little tongue tied.
Yeah.
Or if it looks as though you're a little conceited, it may look like that.
Let it be then.
Let it be. But how many nights did I cry on the floor? How many nights did I scream out, I don't know which way to go? You don't know. So guess what? Bravo to whatever. However it may look, that's what it is.
Wow. That's powerful. We really don't know.
You really don't know.
How hard someone's journey is to get them to where they're at right now.
Right.
And what you had started out saying in the first segment was where you start out is not where you end.
Absolutely.
There's tribulations throughout all of that. And so I went into this episode with my little monologue saying, and I did not expect it to align this well, is when you're getting in the groove.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're someone who dances in their kitchen, but
oh yes,
okay,
all the time.
Yeah, we
with
have
my family.
Yeah, exactly. You take a step forward, you take a step back. You're moving around. You're dodging. You have to be incredibly dynamic in so many ways,
right,
to be able to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that step forward was a step back. Maybe 2 steps back is actually where you need to be right now.
Yes. Literally on my mirror, I have a short saying that says, thank you, God, for the setup. Because yet again, if you don't pour into yourself, how do you expect anybody else to do it? You have to pour into yourself each and every day. How do you want to show up? That builds that confidence.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I hope we all took that hard pill to swallow. I think this is a really fantastic conversation. You've shared a lot of advice, and here in the last minute or so, I'm going to ask you a question. But for those who tuned in late, you're listening to That's What She Said with me, Christiana Malacara, and my guest today is Marlana Lane Cork. And she has showed us throughout this episode tremendous leaps and bounds that she's overcome, and also how to show up for yourself and how to invest in yourself and have faith. So in our last minute here, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a woman who living in the Great Lakes Bay region?
It's a quote, and I love this quote. Mistakes are a fact of life. It is the response to the error that counts. And that's a quote by Nikki Giovanni. I live by that quote. I go to sleep to that quote. And I walk day by day by that quote.
Thank you, Marlana. Thank you for sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. And that's what she said.